Yeah, I learned my right from wrong on a song. I let my heart bleed on my sleeve through microphones. I'm trying to right my wrongs. Promise I do. I ain't trying to stay up on that wide road. Cause I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no.
Isaac. Welcome back to Urban Perspectives, dude. We bring the stories that matter from the voices who live them. Today I'm honored to have a guest whose journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Isaac Wright is not just a lawyer. He is a symbol of resilience and justice. Wrongfully convicted and sentenced to life in prison under New Jersey's Kingpin statute, Isaac didn't just fight to prove his innocence. He educated himself in the law, overturned his conviction, and became the very force for justice this system tried to deny him. Now, as an attorney, Isaac dedicates his life to defending the underserved and dismantling the same injustices he faced. His story is a testament to the power of persistence, purpose, and a belief in a better system. And for those who know him, like myself, Isaac is more than just an advocate. He is a brother, a fighter, and a beacon for hope and change. Isaac, welcome to the show, homie.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that incredible introduction.
Okay.
I started to be amazed with myself. Thank you. Glad to be here, man.
Isaac, let's start from the beginning. Before the world knew you as a lawyer who overturned injustices, you were a man caught in the grip of a system designed to break you. Share with us what was happening in your life and when you first got tangled up in that mess. What were those early days like? And how did you handle the weight of being accused of something you had nothing to do with?
When you ask the question the way you do, you bring back a multifaceted aspect of my life that was very, very complex. I was a kid, early 20s, doing very well. Had made a little name for myself in the entertainment industry. Was pretty successful. Was married. Had created a group called the Cover Girls that was selling millions of records. So as a kid, I was on top of the world. Before then, I was kind of naive about the way the system worked. I traveled all over the world with my father, who was in the military. Mm-hmm. And so when I got caught up in the system, initially there was this belief that ultimately things would work out. And then I came to the reality of what this was all about. And it was an experience that was so shocking. It's like a post-traumatic stress issue that never leaves.
Okay.
It stays with you forever. Mm-hmm. And that's a part of what I do today. That post-traumatic experience mm-hmm. lingers with me to this very day, and it follows me in every case I litigate.
Okay. Now here's something a lot of people don't know about you. I actually crossed paths with you long before we actually met for this occasion.
Yes.
In 1988, at a police barracks, you were there, and I was there. I know you remember that.
I distinctly remember that.
And I came in the door, and you were sitting down, and I think the police asked you, did you know who I was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said no because we didn't know one another at that time.
Yeah.
But something that about that moment sticks with me. Then years later, you see me on TV while I'm in federal custody, and I think that that time you may have been in custody, and I was either being sentenced or tried.
So the next time I saw you from that day, I had my fists around 2 bars of a jail cell.
Okay.
Peering through the bars, looking at the TV, watching the news, facing life myself in prison at the time. And seeing you being escorted out of the courtroom after receiving a life sentence as a drug kingpin. And at that moment, I realized, I recognized you from seeing you fleetingly from the troopers' barracks. And it was, it was a very incredible moment for me in the sense that now I understood why the police was asking me if I knew you. Because I didn't understand it when he was asking. Why are you asking me if I'm just going to the police practice for the first time. I'm seeing a guy for the first time. Why are you asking me if I know this guy? But, they had, when that happened, I was driving a brand new Mercedes, right? And, we're dealing with a time where black people didn't drive around in, in brand new Benzes. And so they already had a preconceived notion about me because of what I was driving. And so now when I saw you that day and I put it all together, it was like, okay, now I understand what the situation was back then. But yeah, that was a very, very important moment in my life, 30-something years later. Yeah. That became it was a moment in time at that time, but 36 years later, when this thing came full circle, that moment in time became a very significant moment in time for me, 30-something years later.
They say that all things in life starts at the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where we ended up started a long time, ago.
Yeah.
And it came full circle.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it actually did. Circle. Amazingly, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
When you got out of prison, you didn't just leave and try to live a quiet life. You passed the bar exam. That's something most people can't even imagine. But your fight wasn't over. It took you 7 or 8 years pushing through the system barrier just to be able to practice law. What kind of obstacles did you face during that time? How did you keep yourself focused on your mission and what seemed like a system that was designed to thwart your efforts?
So, I'm very much aware of what's happening around me.
Okay.
Right? And I'm very much aware about the things that's going on that not only seem to be out of place, but seem to carry a significant message with it. And so, when I went through my journey of being buried alive, and I secured my freedom by getting a law enforcement officer to confess on the stand, that was the kind of miracle that made a person understand, particularly me, that there was something that I needed to do in life, that there was something that I was directed to do.
Okay.
So upon my release, there was a mission. Life had started over for me. I went in prison with a family, and I came out of prison. I didn't have a family anymore.
Okay.
So life had took me in a different direction, and that direction was the pursuit of law.
Okay.
And to have the ability, to have the license to slay giants, not just do it, as a man, a young man with a high school diploma, but to take the next 7 years.
Okay.
After spending 7.5 years in prison, to take the next 7 years to pursue that law degree, 4 years undergraduate, 3 years law school, and to get legal permission from the people that I'm getting ready to come after them. Okay. And when I use the term "come after them," I use that term literally because what I realized in the system is that there was a preconceived plan to target certain types of people and to use the law in order to control those people, where the changes that had occurred 100 years ago didn't allow them to control them anymore. So there was a shift in the way they received the same type of oppression. And I realized that in prison, and that was something that I was going to pursue and attack and annihilate with every strength and every breath that I had. I thought that was my mission. I thought that was my ordainment, and so I pursued it.
Yeah, less blatant and more insidious now.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
Indeed.
The 848 documentary played such a huge role in the journey we're talking about. At the premiere, you stood up in front of everybody and said, "I'm going to bring Akbar home." When the day came, you didn't just say you showed up. You caught a bus. You traveled 28 hours. If there's anything that speaks to your doggedness as an attorney and that resonated with me probably for a lifetime, is that you was on the bus 28 hours to be at the gate of the prison when I was released.
Absolutely.
In 37 years of having attorneys, no one has showed that level of doggedness, determination, and loyalty. Walk us through what it was like for you to make that promise and keep it. What did that moment mean to you, to see it all come to fruition?
I exist. I exist in a state of delusion, right? And I want to make sure that I make it clear what I mean when I say that. Everything begins as a delusion until you make it a reality.
Absolutely.
Right? And the thing about living in a state of delusion is that most people don't understand where you're at. And a lot of them don't understand whether you're okay. And I'm going to give you 2 points in my life that's related to that statement I made with you. That's significant. When I was in prison, I was in Trenton. I was in the state's, New Jersey's only maximum security prison. I got to a point in my 5.5 years in prison. I had formulated an idea based on a strategy and some research that I did to support that strategy, that I was going to get a police officer, a law enforcement officer, a black man was going to get a white law enforcement officer to confess on the stand. And my fellow inmates to begin to believe that there was something wrong with me.
Okay.
Right? And ultimately, the reason why I'm here today is because I got a police officer to confess on the stand.
Okay.
Right? I saw something that nobody else saw. Roll forward in history 30-something years later, to me, making a statement amidst the crowd saying, I'm going to bring Akbar home.
Okay.
Right? That's a delusion. That's not a reality because you're in prison. Right? And you've been in prison for 36 years and everybody else has failed.
Absolutely.
But I understand, the difference between true delusion and a delusion that has not yet manifested itself in reality.
Okay.
And when I make these kinds of decisions, I've already created it in my mind in a way where I understand how to build it. No different than an architect creates the design in his mind before he actually draws it.
Okay.
It starts there. And a master architect can create designs that are unimaginable when it's finished. And so by the time I made that statement, I had already looked over your case. I'd already went back years of understanding what you had gone through. And I already saw the holes that I believe I could exploit. And I want to say it like this when I say this, so because this is a caveat that's extremely important to some of the statements that I'm making. Police officers are under, and prosecutors, the state in general, is under a very, very heavy burden in moving a person through the system constitutionally. And they create all kinds of laws and all types of theories in order to gain ways of making it more easier for them to push people through the system without violating the Constitution. There is absolutely no case that moves through the system that cannot be exploited. None. The worst case in the world, if a person looks at his situation, if he's on videotape, going smiling, he's on candid camera, trust me, something went wrong in his case. Right?
Absolutely.
The difference between lawyers is the ability to look at a haystack with x-ray eyes and see the needle through the hay, as opposed to trying to, if you go in and you try to find a needle in a haystack by pulling the haze out,
Okay.
you're going to throw the needle in the pile and you don't even know it.
That's what happened with me.
That's what happened with you.
Yeah,
But when you
absolutely.
have the ability to see the needle through the hay, you don't even have to move it.
Okay.
You design a way to get to that needle in ways that nobody else is seeing. And you was the same situation. You was a situation where I knew that they were going to fight. I knew that in fighting, they were going to exploit some of the things that I had already seen. And that's exactly what they did, i.e. the Rule 35.
Okay. Well, you use an unusual mechanism, a mechanism that no lawyer has saw in the entire time of my incarceration. And I had some of the best lawyers on the East Coast What do you attribute that to? Your ability to be able to decipher, see something that no. They say that a average mind looks at a situation, or a good mind looks at a situation that nobody else can hit. They hit a target that nobody else can hit. But genius hits a target that nobody else can see.
And I agree with that. And I'm not sure about the labels. I know you have to find a way to kind of measure and describe another individual's intelligence and ability to think critically and creatively. But there's a gift that each one of us have that's very difficult to describe because it's divine. And I was living a very successful life before I went to prison, but it wasn't until I went to prison that I realized that I didn't even know myself. I didn't know who I was.
Okay.
Right. And so it was the first time that I picked up a law book and read the pages that I realized it felt like I was doing it all my life.
Okay.
And so the ability that I have to move through the system is rooted in a gift that God had given me that I didn't know that I had until I actually went to prison.
Okay.
Right. And so, we all have our own gifts. Like I said before, I mean, you might have incredible runners. You might have your Michael Jordans or your LeBrons. You have these amazing people,
superpowers
in different fields that are superhuman. And I'm just that individual in law that is able to move through the system and move through legal theory in ways like Jordan moved through the basketball court.
Absolutely. The GOAT.
The GOAT, that's right. That's right.
You've seen this system from the inside out, Isaac. First as a man it tried to destroy, and now as someone fighting to fix it. You've talked about the need for lawyers who are driven by the cause and not just cash. Lawyers who fight for justice because they believe in it. What do you think we need to do to make sure that the next generation of lawyers is ready to step up, especially for the communities most affected by this system?
So that question brings front and center a mission that I will be going on, and if all things work the way I'd like it to be, we would be traveling that mission together.
Absolutely.
And that mission is designed to do the very thing that you just asked. It's designed to address our young minds, our young legal minds, before they get out into the world, and this at the college level while they're in law school, and to send a single message. And that message is a message that, through my experience, I've understood that it's really the only message that's going to make change. And that message is, I am you, right? The main reason why we have problems in the system is because the people, that run the system, when they look at you, they don't see themselves, right? And when a man sees himself in you, he is more willing to treat you fairly. He is more willing to maintain his integrity and his honor in dealing with you, even if he doesn't like you.
You've been humanized.
He humanizes you when he sees himself in you. And so the message on this tour and dealing with these young minds, these kids still in college, is to say to them, listen, we have a lot of issues in the system that needs to be corrected. But in order for you to be successful and corrected it, in order for you to be the generation that leads us in the right direction, you have to first see yourself in the person that you're either representing, or you're sending to prison, or you're prosecuting. And I think that's really the message that I would have for any attorney. Because the judges are attorneys. They were attorneys before they became judges.
Absolutely.
Prosecutors are attorneys. Everybody that's involved in the system that are significant tools to the proper and lawful administration of justice are lawyers. And that would be my message to them. My message to them would be to do everything that they possibly can in seeing themselves in the person on the other side of that bench.
Okay.
At the defense table.
I guess that we're supposed to be doing that tour sometime this year, the year coming up.
Yeah, August 25th. We're looking to try to get a flagship kickoff around February and March at Howard University.
Okay.
But the tour is to begin in the fall when the kids get back to school in 2025.
And we're still not getting on a plane.
Never. That's a bus all the way.
Yeah,
a tour bus. As long as they have a nice, comfortable kitchen and bed and everything that I can sleep, we're gonna
good.
We're gonna be on the ground, 10 toes.
10 toes down.
Yes, 10 toes. That's right.
Well, but I'm looking forward to it, man.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to do some of the HBCUs too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Those are some of our main
primary
focus.
targets.
Yeah, primary targets. Yeah.
Okay.
We're still going to do the Harvards and the Yales, but
Okay.
our primary target is going to be HCUs.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to Harvard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that the lead prosecutor in my case
He was a Harvard graduate.
was a Harvard graduate, and he is now an adjunct professor there.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an interesting turn of events to the prosecutor that recommended that I die in jail may see us on a panel discussing criminal justice system.
I think if he saw you, if he see you there, or if at any time he's in your vicinity or in your presence,
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd do everything he can to give you a hug. And I'm saying that literally in the sense, I'm not saying that, being cynical.
Yeah.
I'm saying that for this reason, because I understand how people are. You have people that live two different lives in the system inside, right? Because we're talking about individuals. We're talking about people that are no different than me and you. They have emotions, they have feelings, they have all of that. Also, they have ambition, right? And sometimes that ambition causes them to have dual personalities. From a professional standpoint, you are going to be the monster because that excels him. But personally, right, he knows right from wrong. Personally, he knows right from wrong. Personally, he understands that there were questionable things that he'd done.
Absolutely.
And so I think that would be a hug of gratitude. And that gratitude would be, I'm glad you're out. I know I did some, excuse my language, some bullshit, right? But in a lot of respects, but I'm really glad that you made it. Okay. I just couldn't advocate for you because I would undermine my own ambition.
Absolutely. So through the grace of God and the doggedness of my attorney, I'm out here now.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Especially the grace of God.
Through the grace of God. Yeah. In that order.
Yes, indeed.
Sometimes they say in no particular order, but in that particular order.
Definitely in that order. I said something. I said again, and this epitomizes the fact that it's the grace of God. When you really think about it, I had to go to prison for the rest of my life. I had to get a life sentence in prison in order for you to be released.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if that would have never happened to me, I would have never been in a position to help you.
No, absolutely not.
And when you look at that scenario, when you look at that journey that we both took, and we came full circle, that was divine intervention. That was a road. That was divinely structured to come around to a place where things would get better.
And I took a journey that took me 36 years, but it took me to a place that I am more comfortable being than I ever was at any point prior in my life. So prior to the Rolls Royces and all of that, where I'm at now spiritually is far different from where I was then, and I'm a more evolved person than I was. And the only way that allowed me to become as fully evolved is the journey that I was on. Yeah. So it's similar comparisons to what Isaac is saying. Yeah. We take these paths because I think that nothing in the universe happens without a cause, and that things enter and exit your life at the auspicious moment. So the interruption of my prior life took me to where I'm at now. And this is where I'm the most comfortable. Isaac and I had similar paths, and we arrived at similar paths and similar journeys, but we arrived at a similar place. Isaac is trying to give back through his legal expertise, and and also his philanthropy, and I'm trying to give back through people to gain the benefit of my experience and to view me as a cautionary tale. And in some regards, my philanthropy, although it is not financial, but it's a giving of myself and of my soul and trying to tell a story that I think can be a course correction for some of the inner city at-risk youth out there in the country. And Isaac, he can speak for himself, has done a tremendous job. He has become renowned across the country, not only for his legal expertise, but also for his activism. He's supposed to go to D.C., I don't know if he's even fully aware of it, to receive what is called the Nelson Mandela Award. This is probably the first occasion that it's been given out, but I'm certain that it won't be the last. And he is the proper recipient for the first time it's ever been given. It's well-deserved. He works in the trenches for the people that can afford him the least. And in my cases, he worked pro bono. And at $700 an hour, I probably owe him my life, But he's worked pro bono. He's just done an outstanding job, not just for me, but for other people, some of them similarly situated.
Was to follow up on that, I would have to talk about, the way in which I move through the system and the way in which I proceed with the missions that I take on, and how I would want the youth to look at what I'm doing. I take on a very limited amount of cases, and I'm extremely expensive, but I don't say that vainly. I say that for this reason. Akbar mentioned that I did his case pro bono. And the reason why, one of the main reasons why I'm an expensive attorney is because I use a lot of that money to do free cases, right? That's how I pay. I don't get grants. Nobody gives me any money. But I see the importance of me providing my services to those who really, really need it for free. And the only way that I'm able to do that is to get from those who can afford it my true value. I then take that and I take on cases like Akbar, who I wholeheartedly believe needed to be out of prison and I would have went and borrowed money if I had to, to make sure that he was okay and I got him out of prison. But fortunately, I am qualified enough to be able to demand a certain amount of money, and people are willing to pay it. And so that allows me to go ahead and do pro bono work for other people. I say this with the youth in mind because they need to understand the challenges that we face as a people. From the time we exit the womb until the time we enter the grave, we exist in a world where it's a continued struggle to be somebody. And so, the thing that I do, the pro bono work that I do, is to send a message to all who's watching that we're here for each other. And as youth, as kids growing up, they need to understand that that's why they're here also, that we're here for each other. And they should take that into adulthood and manifest that in things that are good. I have a 2001 Grand Jeep Cherokee that's sitting under a tree rotting because I wouldn't let it go. It took me through undergraduate, it took me through law school, and I slept in it many times, right? When I came out of prison with nothing. And I had to go to undergraduate, I had to go to law school. And one of the things that I was not going to do after 7.5 years of hardcore misery was put any burdens on my family, on my mother and my father, and my extended family, my brothers and sister, because they did a hell of a job supporting me, taking care of my daughter while I was away, and making sure, that she stayed on the right path. And so this was a burden I had to carry, and I had something to drive, which means I had a place to stay, right? And so I spent many nights in the parking lot of the school, in that car. I at some point I got myself an apartment. It took almost my first year. but I got an apartment, and I did side work, doing legal stuff on the side as a law student, but I had so much experience that had value. And so I gradually built myself up. I put myself through school, both undergraduate and law school. I paid for it, and I paid for it through that gift that God had given me, and that car that served as an apartment for a little while.
Okay.
You know, but that's drive. The drive is that there's always an answer. You know, we're born naked, and there was one time that we lived, in huts. We threw some straw around a tree. There was a time when nature wasn't a problem for us, and so as human beings, we have this strength, the natural strength to persevere, and the mentality to persevere. We just got to take the things that are around us and get creative. Yeah. And so that's what I did, and that's what I would encourage any kid that is disadvantaged, but has a goal to sometimes, look at themselves and the answers in their face.
Very good. Well put.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac, for sharing your incredible journey with us today.
You're welcome.
Your story of resilience, purpose, and transformation is a powerful reminder of what's possible when you refuse to give up, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Isaac's fight to turn pain into progress and to advocate for those still caught up in a broken system gives us all something to think about and act on. If this conversation resonated with you, we encourage you to share it and keep the dialogue going. Remember, change starts with us. One voice, one action, one step at a time. To walk 1,000 miles, you must first take one step.
'Cause I can't let them take my soul. Nah, 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 no. Oh, I can't let